Thanks for listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast, joined by Ben White and Mr. William Brad Alice. I am merely Mike Luke. All right, we got a lot to get to this show, obviously, but first, Flavoring Fridays. Welcome to the PHNX Wildcats show, presented by OGs. Flavor your Fridays by heading to ZenLeafDispensaries.com and use code PHNX for checkout. Jacob Franklin is a proud father behind the scenes. Look at me do that. All right, Ben White, Brad Alice, everybody in there. We're going to talk. Guys, this is a team that can absolutely overwhelm you at any point. There was a time when the game was tied. I believe it was like 14-14. Arizona went on an 8-0 burst. From there on out, it felt like Arizona scored every single time down the court, Ben and Brad, and that's what happened.
It was one of those games, especially when you got to the end of the first half there, where you really wondered, is there anything Arizona just doesn't do well? One of those games where I think all the boxes were checked. I think you saw it from a shooting perspective. I think defensively you saw it pretty early just because of the size differential, similarly to what we saw against Southern on Monday night. But this team can play, man. This team is stacked. I mean, you saw Boswell come out there in the second half and just get a flow from three. You saw Mo Krivas do some big things. And by the way, did you guys know he's 7'2"? I think Casey Jacobson only said it about 50 times. But yeah, a lot to like from this game, and this team might continues to look like the best team in the country for sure.
William, this team checks off every box. Disagree with me.
I mean, they are prone to some turnover issues here and there, but I think only had 9 tonight before they got sloppy late in the game.
Yep.
Here's the thing you can't discount. So Belmont is a really good low major who's transitioning to a mid-major conference.
Right.
These are typically the type of teams a good team beats by 15 to 20. I think the spread was 22. And this could easily have been a 45-point win had they kept the foot on the gas.
Right.
Belmont is not as good as they've been in years past, but this is a program that has won, I think they said, 13 consecutive years winning 20 games?
Right.
This isn't an awful team, and they just athletically didn't match up. For
Brad,
the first 10, 15 minutes, it just... Yeah, it's my daughter's room. So, yeah, it's kind of San Quentin. She's been in some trouble lately. Got the R behind her. I think I just got lost. But, yeah, basically Arizona was able to race past them. I mean, how many times did Caleb Love just go coast to coast, or Boswell go coast to coast, or Jaden Bradley go coast to coast and not finish? So, yeah, they're really good. They're really athletic. They're really tall. Are they great outside shooters? No, but they're streak shooters. And they're a force to reckon with. We all thought they could be a national title contender before the season, and they've done nothing but prove that.
Yeah, and then we also got to give Tommy Lloyd a lot of credit for how he's built this roster. I mean, this roster, again, last year's team, and we talked about it a lot, it felt like it relied a lot on smoke and mirrors in that, it was a good team, but it probably shouldn't have been a number 2 seed. This team is totally different across the board, and I would make the case that you could make that Arizona is every bit as good at every position and generally better at every position than it was last year. Kylan Boswell is better than Kerr. Sorry. Caleb Love is better than Courtney Ramey. Pella Larson, better than last year's version of Pella Larson. Keshad Johnson, I think from an impact perspective, is very similar to Azulis. Different players, but very similar. Umar Ballo, leader of men, is about the same. But Mo Krivas, who we're going to get to here in a second, is something entirely different there, Ben White.
He is. He's 7'2". He's got some nice hands. He's got some nice skill, and he's 7'2". When a guy's that big, I don't care what happens. You're going to get rebounds. You're going to have a presence on the defensive end. All he has to do is stick his hand up, especially tonight. I think he's just, in a game where all you got to do is stick your hand or even your pinky up and you block the shot. But no, we've talked about it. I mean, this team is entirely different. It's athletic. And on the defensive end, it has an edge that we just didn't see last year. And it goes to show when you change up your personnel and when you look yourself in the mirror after a game like you did last year against Princeton, where you just got totally outmatched physically, you really didn't want to be there at moments, just the way that some of the guys carried themselves. This team wasn't very tough, and they had to redo that. They had to go out and they had to get Keshad Johnson. They got Caleb Love, who looks fantastic at times, but is certainly not, what we saw last year with somebody like our buddy Kerr at West Virginia. So it's just an entirely different team. And I know it's early, but you watch them tonight and you watch them against Southern, and more importantly, you watch them against Duke, and you compare that to what we're seeing around the rest of the Pac-12 and the rest of college basketball. I mean, we all watched on Tuesday night Kansas, Kentucky, and Michigan State, Duke. When you look across the top 10 there, Mike, I'd make the argument that with the way Arizona's played, with the way their roster is constructed, and with that win against Duke, they certainly look like the number one team in college basketball at this point.
Yeah, Brad, can we talk about Mo Krivas for a second? I can't think of anybody that really reminds me too much of Mo Krivas in U of A history. I mean, he's got a little bit of deuce on in him in the way that he takes his time in the low post, but he's different in that regard. He's very much a unique dude.
The guy I think is the closest comparison, and it's not a great comparison, is Lauren Woods.
Interesting.
Similar height, similar length, shot blockers, pretty good off. I mean, again, Lauren Woods was a junior when he got to Arizona, and Krivas is still a freshman, but he's got that kind of size, got that kind of shot blocking ability. And I know we're not allowed to do non-European to American players.
Yes, we are. Do it. I know you want to do it. Do it.
And we're not allowed to do, you're not supposed
cross
to do
race.
The cross race. But that's, to me, the closest comparison. I mean, Woods was a legit 7'1". He's a legit 7'1", 7'2". Long arms. He might be a little stronger as a freshman than Woods was. And Woods was probably a little more athletic. But Krivas is a decent athlete. And if you look at this team, you were talking about last year's team, I think, was a good mid-major team posing as a Power 5 team. But if you look at it, of the new guys coming in, there could be 3 or 4 NBA players.
Right.
Bellis was the best of the bunch last year, and he just got cut from a 2-way contract and is playing in the Lithuanian Pro League and has already been loaned out. So, if you tell me Caleb Love gets a cup of coffee in the NBA, I might believe you. If you tell me Kylan Boswell finds a way to make the league, I might believe you. If you tell me Mo Krivas, if he develops a 3-point shot, is in the NBA, I'd believe you. KJ Lewis, I know
KJ Lewis is going to make a lot of money in the NBA.
You think he's the best pro prospect? I don't know if I disagree with you. If Jaden Bradley could ever figure out how to score, I mean, they're just a more athletic and tougher team than Arizona was last year. I mean, they upgraded in those two categories. They don't have a pure scorer like Tubelis, but we also saw when in several crunch times, Tubelis can't create his own shot. You got 3 or 4 guys now who can, obviously Baza was on last year's team, but he didn't have the confidence, nor did he probably have the green light. I think he has a green light. I think Pella has a green light. I think Caleb Love has a green light. There are plenty of guys who can get their own shot, create off the dribble, pull up, step backs. They're just a more balanced offensive team, which showed by that stat tonight. No one had 20 points until tonight. And then, 2 guys decided to get 20 points tonight.
Right. Know what? We're going to beat up on Shear here for a second. This is not a rare L. Shear was also wrong on KJ Lewis. I told Shear that KJ Lewis should have been a 5-star. He poo-pooed me. He knows nothing. He does know a lot, but he was wrong on both of these guys. I will say this. The internet.
Who liked Krivas?
You loved Krivas.
I loved Krivas. Still do. I love him more than I did then.
And I thought Krivas, again, I got to come clean here. When I was looking at the Zapruder film highlights, I thought that Krivas was going to be more of a plotter, one of these slow white big guys that, takes their time. They throw their elbows around. This dude's different, man. I don't know what kind of pro he's going to be, but he is, as a college player, he's going to be absolutely fantastic, Ben. And, I think that I put this out on Twitter. I think that he would 100%. I think outside of probably Oregon and maybe USC, I think he's starting for every team in the conference right now at center, Ben White.
Probably. And I mean, how quickly would his scoring and production go up in a position like that? Just because the way Brad and you guys broke it down, I mean, he has all those abilities, and he's somebody who's only going to continue to get better. And he's somebody in the front court that if you're Arizona, you really don't have to worry too much about it, especially when Ballo moves on and things progress here over the next couple of years. He's only going to get more skilled. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a guy, just with the day and age of what bigs do, and just from a skill standpoint, I wouldn't be surprised if he's somebody who develops a little bit of a shot moving forward. And that's what's so cool about this team. I think somebody like even KJ Lewis, I'm not saying he'll start at every other team in the Pac-12, but I think we used the example a couple of games ago. He'd be Oregon State's best player by a mile. So this team just has a lot of developmental pieces, and they're deep, and they have 8 to 10 guys that they can rely on, which is remarkable at this point.
Yeah. All right. Now let's get a couple of the reads in. First of all, PHNX, no better time to become a PHNX diehard. Black Friday specials coming up, my friends. Go to PHNX, up to 90% off right there. You can be a very cool person. And again, much cooler than me with or without this, but you will be really cool. Also, let's see here. Let's do a Circle K. I went to Circle K. I got the cheapest gas in the city. Here's the 2 spots that all of you people need to go to if you're looking for cheap gas. Silver Bell and Grant has $2.85 gas. I went there today. I can verify it. And 36th and Keno is $2.89. Go there, get Circle K, and on top of that, you can become an Inner Circle member, my friends. Do you get it, Brad Alice? Brad, do you get it? It's funny.
I do get it.
All right. Yeah. Brad, it's so funny. Brad was mesmerized by it. So again,
I'm actually trying to open the box score. I'm
trying to open Join Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Okay. A couple of people have mentioned Jaden Bradley. Let's talk about Jaden Bradley. I like Jaden Bradley. I think he's going to be good. But I think at this stage in the game, it's also hard not to say that KJ Lewis is the better basketball player right now. I think that you're going to see him continue to lose some minutes to KJ Lewis, or I don't know if lose minutes is the right term, but KJ's got a different level type athleticism, a dynamic factor. When KJ Lewis goes out onto the basketball court, you notice him, and you notice him immediately. Again, that's what a 5-star shooting guard is supposed to look like, fellas.
I mean, yeah, I think the big difference is they play completely different positions. So the only reason I think Jaden Bradley stays in even the rotation is they need a backup point guard. Unless you're ready to turn that over to Pella or Caleb Love.
No, we don't want Pella at point guard. That's for you to vote.
Offensive player. And, for fact is, I think right now, KJ's a better scorer and he's a better defender, or at least a comparable defender. So Bradley's really, his only claim to being in the rotation is that he runs the offense well. And there have been stretches where I think he's run it better than Boswell. The problem is he's more limited than Boswell, whereas Boswell can play off the ball. But for the most part right now, the way he's at least played the last 2 or games, maybe even the full regular season, Bradley's best minutes were the exhibitions. But yeah, right now, I would have no problem seeing KJ Lewis steal more minutes away from Jaden Bradley.
And Ben, we definitely know at this point, and we talked about it before, this is clearly an 8-man rotation. All the time coaches lie and they always say, well, we're going to go 10 deep, and they do it for like a game and then it doesn't happen. You know exactly that these 8, exactly who these 8 players are. Again, coming off the bench, it's going to be Mo Krivas, it's going to be KJ Lewis, it's going to be Jaden Bradley. I think that Pauly M, Philly B, I think those guys have a place in certain games, but it's that 8-man rotation. And I love the 8-man rotation. I am 1000% okay with the 8-man rotation. 3 guys off the bench, I believe, is ideal.
It's hard not to like. And I think somebody like Bradley is interesting because obviously he's still very young, comes from Alabama, runs the offense okay at times, like Brad said. But outside of that, he's struggled quite a bit. I mean, from a passing perspective, he had a pretty boneheaded pass in the lane there. I think that resulted in a turnover and just doesn't quite settle in the way that maybe some of these other guards do. But time will tell, right? It's still early in the year. Maybe the shooting gets a little bit more developed. Maybe he gets a little bit more comfortable in the offense off the bench. So time will tell. Pelle Larsson's a perfect example. He certainly wasn't excellent when he came in, right? Kind of settled into that 6-man role. And now he's in this starting lineup this year in a much more prominent role. So this team has a lot to play with. I think it'll be interesting. Love, the box score looks pretty, 20 points, 8 for 12. From a shooting perspective, obviously he is not the most efficient player at times, but we'll be interested.
I'll take him. I will take Caleb Love, the good, the bad, all of it. I'm here for the Caleb Love experience. I totally get that. Mike Candrea's in here. Huh? Not really Mike Candrea. But Brad, I will take Caleb Love. I'll take the whole experience just because I think the good outweighs the bad, and he was something we didn't have all of last year.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had that, and again, I haven't maybe scrutinized every shot, but I haven't had that "what are you doing" moment that I've had with other high volume guards in the last 10 or 15 years.
You hate Mark Lyons.
I don't hate Mark Lyons, but Mark Lyons made me pull my hair out a few times. Yes. One of my favorite players, Gabe York, had a few of those. Gabe, that's the heat check. We don't need that. I mean, I didn't see Love take a bad shot tonight. Maybe he did. He just kind of, again, he had 11 in the first 8 minutes or whatever, ridiculous. I mean, he was acting like that Belmont owed him money. I mean, he was brutal early, and I mean that in a good way, brutal towards them. Just, so I'm fine. Again, if he chucks up that 3-point shot from 24 feet, 8 seconds into the possession when you're trying to milk clock, then yeah, I'm going to yell at him. Only Salim can do that in my heart. But so far, I have
Damon
no
could
complaints.
Do that too. Damon was allowed to do that too.
If you're from Portland and you're a Stoudemire, you can do that, and I have no problems with that. But in this case, yeah, so far I haven't seen anything from Love that has made me cringe, has made me think of the guy who a lot of people thought shot North Carolina out of games. Could that happen? Sure, good. But so far, he's playing under control for the most part while still, being able to play his type of game.
Yep. Robert Madrill, I think you hit the nail on the head, as you almost always do, my friend. What do you mean almost, Mike? You always do, Robert. That's why we rely on people like yourself. He is the guard penetration is just night and day. Last year's team, I think, had the worst penetration of any. Gosh, I go back to Chris Mills' team. So I can't think of a team that had worse guard penetration and that you had nobody that could get into the paint, nobody that could shoot or get in there and shoot floaters. Everybody in this team can get to the paint. KJ Lewis can get to the paint. Caleb Love can get to the paint. Kylan Boswell can get to the paint. It is so much easier when you have players that can stress a defense like Arizona's doing right now. That is a great point there, Robert. Ben White, I think you agree.
I think Robert makes the point of the night. And when you look at the box score, right, I think the most damning thing is 52 to 18 paint advantage. Granted, you're going up against a very small team, but traditionally last year, it's not something that Arizona would excel at, to be quite honest. I mean, you'd have to rely on outside shooting. You'd have to rely on Krisa and some of these other guys. And, just made it tough when you weren't getting that consistency, from your small forwards and your guards, but this team is just so dynamic because they're just athletic. I mean, they can just do so many different things. There's not one, I think, guard in that starting lineup that can only do one set thing. I think Love has proven, at times, in the first half of the Duke game that he takes some boneheaded shots. Yeah, but he plays within the flow of the offense, right? He does other things on the defensive end too, and he distributes the ball. So that's a perfect example. Larsson has been fantastic on the defensive end. He's also somebody who can find his shot when need be, right? And then Boswell, we know what he can do when he's comfortable. He can make 3 after 3. He can run the offense and distribute the ball. So it's just an entirely different makeup of player. And when you have those 3 guys leading the way, we're not even talking about Ballo and Keshad Johnson up front. So that goes to show you just how, much good problems Arizona has at this point. And from a scoring perspective, I'm not sure if Arizona will be the best team in all of college hoops this year, certainly, but I think they'll definitely be one of the best offenses. That's for sure. This team's not going to struggle to score points.
Ben, I don't think you're being optimistic enough. I don't think you're back in the A enough. I have not seen a team in college basketball this year that I say they're clearly better than Arizona. And I've watched a lot of college basketball, maybe not like Udifo and D'Artagnan. By the way, check out their they have a very good pod going on. But I've watched a lot of college hoops this year. And I haven't seen a team that I think is clearly better than Arizona. I mean, Kansas looked good against Kentucky. Duke is solid, like I said, but Arizona beat Duke in Cameron. There's not a team out there. I think Michigan State is drastically overrated. I don't really, like I said, I don't see a team out there, Brad, that I say Arizona can't win. I want to get Brad's take on that. But first, Desert Financial Credit Union, my friends. Okay, you might see Ben White right there chilling in the slums of Orange County. Well, Brad Alice and I are squeaking by a living here in Tucson. You could probably look at Ben's floors and say Ben probably has some no, actually that's Empire Flooring. Excuse me. This is Desert Financial Credit Union. Desert Financial Credit Union is where Ben should put all of his money in because they're here to help people like Ben. When you open up a free checking account online, get $200 in bonuses. Get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200. Again, this is the credit union that is committed to giving back to the community and sharing success with their members. Now, let's go to the Desert Financial Credit Union and buy the numbers graphic. Okay. This is called an ass kicking right here. You get 12 threes out of Belmont. Cool. Arizona 57-28. Now you're going to win a lot of games, fellas, when you got that. That also goes to the toughness factor I wanted to bring up, right, Brad. This Arizona team is tough. This is a team that is, they're just tough across the board. There's no weenies out there. From Umar Ballo, leader of men, Keshad Johnson, obviously tough. We're going to get to Keshad in a minute. Pella Larson, UFO's guy, Caleb Love, Kylan Boswell. These are all tough dudes. And that's not something that you could have said about Arizona last year. And I think that's why a big reason why they match up with any kind of style.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that they're tougher, and I might even throw. I'd like to see what happens when he has to really go up against a rugged guy. But Krivas is a guy who is at least ruggedly built. Whether he is that kind of toughness or not, or he's more of a traditional, 1990s Jura who we all thought were soft as Sherman. But yeah, I do want to correct you, Mike. You talk about how good Arizona is. There's no doubt, but we all know there's 14 teams in the Big Ten who are better than Arizona.
I mean, God.
Clearly.
That's what the media has told me. It's just like, just like I know Vanderbilt's the 14th best team in NCAA football. So, no, realistically, yeah, Arizona's playing as well as anyone. I mean, they look clearly better than Duke, and Duke looked really good the other night.
Right.
Again, maybe that's because they were playing an overrated Michigan State team. But no, again, we've addressed this, and this Arizona team is balanced. They're athletic yet tough. They're skilled yet explosive. I think they could win a 50-48 rock fight against, Sean Miller's savior teams, and then go and put up 110 to 98 against an Oregon type team. It's a very versatile team. It's a team that, yes, you're right. It has an 8-man rotation, but if they had to go 10 and 11 when Vasar comes back, I think they can do it.
They're not scrubs. You're not throwing you're not throwing a Daniel Dillon out there where he's just going to get the ball and then dribble 3 times backwards and then pass it. You don't have any of those guys.
I think again, I've said they may end up with this 8.5-man rotation where, depending on matchups, you might see Poly M get his 8 minutes, or you might see Philly B get 8 minutes, or again, when Vasar comes back and you need a little more front court depth. But their core 8 is as good as any core 8 in the Pac-12. Maybe when USC gets all their pieces back, but I mean, I haven't been impressed. I've only watched like 10-15 minutes of their games, but UCLA doesn't impress me. ASU certainly doesn't impress me. The bottom half of this conference is pretty scrubberific.
I think USC.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think USC is going to be interesting. But even though I stick up for Andy Enfield, Tommy Lloyd is a much better coach than Andy Enfield. And Arizona, I think, just has better pieces that fit all the way around. Thomas with an interesting question. This was in my show notes. Thomas, you're a smarter man than me because you were able to beat me to the show notes. Here's where I'm at with Keshad Johnson. A big part of Keshad Johnson's game is we're dog friendly. Don't tell him to shut up. Tell him to bring more. We are a big part of being able to bring in a Keshad Johnson is to say we're going to let you explore some of your perimeter game. And so again, I think you got to stay true to your word there. I'm cool with 2 threes per game. And if he makes one of the threes, then he can keep shooting. But I don't want to ever see a game where he's 0 of 4. That to me can't happen. Can't be any of that stuff because, quite frankly, he's too valuable down low, Ben White. He's also too valuable from a defensive perspective. Again, I'm cool with him exploring out there, seeing what he could do, but you also got to remember what your strengths are.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see that even be the case. I think, tonight obviously was 0 for 2. And, at that point you realize, okay, settle down, go back to what we do best here, focus on what I'm here to do. But, moving forward, we might see it on Sunday against Arlington. Maybe he'll be a little bit more aggressive and, take 3 or 4, maybe a couple of those go in. But yeah, by and large, that's not what he's brought here to do. And what have we talked about from day one? Everybody, was kind of up in arms, half and half. Oh, I don't know if we want this guy. He doesn't score a lot of points. He's not the best outside shooter. It's an entirely different role. I mean, we don't need him to be Tubelis. Right. He's not Tubelis. It's an entirely different team. You have athleticism. You have shooting from your guards and your smaller guys on the forward side. So you're just not going to see that from him. And I think he's just too important to what they are trying to do, especially from a defensive and offensive rebounding perspective. I mean, he is the team when it comes to getting those offensive boards. So I would imagine you're going to continue to see that. And, over time, he probably gets his scoring up. I think he'll be averaging more than he is right now. And, maybe the role looks a little bit different. But by and large, when you bring in a guy like that, he's played college basketball for a number of years. This is why you bring in somebody like a transfer, because you know what you're getting. And to win the national title and be competitive in March, you need grown men. You need guys with experience, and somebody like him who played in the title game with SDSU last year and was as good as they were defensively. That's not somebody you're going to pass up on.
Interesting. I heard some about Will Bynum. I did not see this. Was he arrested for fraud? What?
No, he was convicted. He was part of that group of NBA players who defrauded.
Oh, that's right.
I think it was the Players Association. I know Big Baby Davis, not Ben Davis. Big Baby was the main guy, one of the ringleaders. But I think it was half a dozen to a dozen NBA players. But Bynum is looking at like a decade in jail if fully sentenced. And ironically enough, I think it's Terrence Williams, who Arizona recruited heavily. I think there was another guy who's related to the Stoudemire, so he can pull up from 25, but he's going to have to do that.
What high school Will Bynum? You should know this, Brad Alice. This was right during your heyday.
Oh, what was that?
Come on.
It was that private school where the coach actually tried to get him Prop 48.
Crane
Tech.
Crane Tech. Come on. You're better than that, Brad. We expect more. Okay.
I'm old, it's late, and it just started raining, so I may have wet dogs here in a minute.
Okay, Conrad Martinez. I will say.
Before we move off of Keshad, first of all, he was 4 or 5 from inside the arc, and I think tonight was a perfect amount of shots. Unlike a certain radio show that said, "I hope Arizona doesn't shoot more than 33s against Duke." No, about 20 is a much better. 18, 20 is a better number for this team. This team does not need to live outside the arc because they have so many weapons. So again, so many guys who can get to the hoop. So many 7-footers. If this team is shooting 33s, they either be hitting 20 of them or they better be trying to erase a big deficit.
Is Conrad Martinez, our good friend Conrad the Comrade, is he actually I think that's pretty good. Is he ever going to play meaningful minutes here? He's starting to grow on me a little bit. I had a bet with Sheer about who scores more career points, Philly B or Conrad Martinez. I'm starting to like what I've seen out of Conrad Martinez. I didn't like the film where he looked like me, but he doesn't look like me when he's playing in these Pac-12 games, Ben White.
Brad, I'll let you entertain this one first. I'm curious.
I think he's good enough to play at Arizona. The problem is he may never crack the rotation because of guys they're bringing in ahead of him. Yeah. I mean, next year you've got 2 elite guards coming in, and I'm not sure who's leaving. But Martinez is legit. I mean, I think he's a legit player. I think you could say that of several of these guys. I think in another, if suddenly 3 guys get hurt and you're looking at your small forwards as Philly B and Polly M, you could do worse. If Conrad Martinez needed to fill in for an injured Jaden Bradley, he could do that. Is that a guy you want, taking 12 shots a game? No. But if he played 8 minutes a game, I don't think he'd hurt Arizona.
Yeah, all right. I'm okay with that. All right. Paulie M was brought up a little bit, and then I want to look ahead to the rest of the schedule because here's where it starts to get fascinating. Paulie M, as much as I like Philly B, I think Paulie M is better than Philly B. if Paulie M has to play minutes as that 8th guy, I am totally okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, look, he can come in and he can not mess up the flow of things too much. I agree with you on the Philly B part. That's our boy, though. We're not going to hate on him too much. But I think somebody like Paulie M, he's obviously got the ability to score the basketball if he has to. Obviously not the most physical player, but again, yeah, I mean, Arizona.
He gets a lot of rebounds. He got 11 rebounds like the last game in like 4 minutes. That's how good it was.
He did. So, and that's the beauty of the rotation 8 through 10 is at least one of these guys, every single one of them has shown something in glimpses. And somebody like Paulie M is going to be important for that. And like we keep talking about, good issues to have, especially in the bottom of the rotation. And I think we're going to see it here as the non-conference goes on.
All right, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the non-conference.
I want to say this. I think Paulie is more talented. I think right now Philly's a better basketball player.
You like Philly B.
And that may be different by Christmas, but just because Paulie still looks uncomfortable out there, like he doesn't know where quite to be. Sometimes looks like he gets lost physically on the court. Tonight he had those 2 shots, which he turned into rebounds. Congratulations, but he was like about a foot short, hitting the front of the rim. Just doesn't look like he's in that flow yet. But he's a more talented basketball player than Philly B. But right now, Philly B is just a little better.
Let's look ahead to the rest of this out-of-conference gauntlet because there's some teams that we can make fun of. But first, we need to get to Ben's flooring. I missed it earlier. Ben White, I'm sure, has great flooring because Ben White makes a lot of money. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if Ben White has this from Empire Today. They can give you the best prices on all your flooring. You go in there and you will not be disappointed at all. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive $350 off discount when they use promo code PHNX. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com. PHNX for details. Okay, now looking ahead, Alabama's the game that I'm more interested in than I think Michigan State, and and this is with all due respect. And this is with all due respect to one of the commenters on there. Michigan State does nothing for me. I've watched them a couple times. They don't impress me at all. I think Wisconsin stinks. The Purdue one is fascinating because you got Zach Edey, who's probably the best player in college basketball, but I still don't like the roster around him. Alabama, the game before my birthday, everybody, is the one that I'm really interested in. Alabama, they got the Nelson kid, the Grant Nelson kid, transfer in from like North Dakota State, who's a monster, but they're uber athletic. I think it's going to be the most athletic team that Arizona plays all year. That is the one that I am penciling in and excited to see how Arizona responds, because I think Arizona is going to handle these other teams. They might lose a game, but I'm not really too worried about that. Oh, real quick, Noah, I have an update on the Kia boys. Sorry about this. There was survey. Brad, did you hear about the Kia boys?
I heard they busted into the ride.
Okay. Well, these dorks are about to get caught because my neighbor who came back from vacation came forward with surveillance footage from his house of these dweebs breaking into the car. And I'll just leave it on this. One of the kids has a bowl cut. So I know that doesn't surprise probably anybody out there, but there you will be found. You will be hunted down, and Mike Luke will make your life a pain in the butt, my friend.
The bigger question is, are we sure it wasn't the cats in the backyard who didn't tip them off that you had the Kia available to break into?
Yeah, those cats are way too lazy to do any of that. But yes, okay. I am excited. The Kia boys, we are coming for you, and we will absolutely find you. What was the question?
Upcoming schedule.
Oh yeah, the upcoming schedule. Alabama is the team that I'm very interested to see, though. I want to see how Arizona matches up, and I think they'll be just fine. I want to see how Arizona matches up against a team that is long, athletic, and has players that can score. That, to me, is going to be the next matchup. Again, I don't worry too much about Michigan State or Purdue.
Yeah, because Michigan State, I mean, we saw it against Duke on Tuesday. They just can't score. I mean, they struggle from a shooting perspective. I think they have some good size up front, but outside of that, they're very inconsistent. They're very much in the figure it out phase. As talented as they're supposedly supposed to be. Colgate, whatever. Wisconsin, same thing, right? Similar Big Ten team. Not a lot of athleticism there. Purdue is interesting because I think Arizona's going to win that game, but you've got Edey. It's on the road. I get the roster itself outside of Edey isn't A+ by any means. I get that Arizona has an advantage probably at 4 out of the 5 positions, right? But again, it'll be interesting because it's in Indianapolis. Purdue is ranked 2. I don't know how long they will stay there, but it will definitely be a top signature matchup. But yeah, Bama and I think Florida Atlantic is where it gets interesting because those teams, like you said, they present a level of athleticism. And I think Bama's guards more so than anything. Just how will Arizona go up against that? And I think when you looked at the Duke game, obviously we knew what Filipowski could do down low, but just from a guard perspective, I thought Arizona had the clear advantage there, even though those 2 guards are very good. So it's just a different type of guard because I think Alabama's a lot more athletic. I think those guys can take you off the dribble and get to the rim and do some different things. So that'll be the telling time. And then Florida Atlantic is going to be a fun one in Vegas too, Mike.
Florida Atlantic is a very good one. Real quick, I've been asked to rap Bone Thugs and Harmony. This is for you, Jacob Franklin. I will make this very quick, though. Let's see. Creep on a come up. There we go. Woke up this morning with the thought of robbing a bank to get rich. Been 18 days since I've been paid. So click, give me yo. Boom. There we go. Very, very good. One last thing about the Kia boys. Patrick Stark says, the reason I got the Kia, Patrick, was because I'm a man of
many connections.
Ben White can attest to this. I also have very few material needs. What you see is what you get. I have about 5 pairs of sweatpants that I rotate, including my dress sweats. But I thought
about 6 pairs of white T-shirts that you see on the show every day.
Correct. That's about it. But I thought with the Kia, listen, it's nothing's more middle class than a Kia Optima. And I thought when I got it, Brad, nobody would ever want to break into a Kia Optima because who cares what somebody has in a Kia Optima? This is correct.
Except literally we have gangs of thugs who are Kia boys.
Yeah, but if you read, I'm no car burglar by any means, but they say it's the easiest car to break into by a mile.
That and the Hyundai. The Hyundai is, by the way. So when I went to get the rental, and then we'll get back to basketball here in a second on the AZ Wildcats postgame show. When I went to go get the rental, though, because obviously my insurance covers it for a month. Guess what they tried giving me at first? A Kia.
Yeah.
And I told them, no, I don't want a Kia in this area.
Let's be honest. When all these guys get together, and I'm assuming there's some, like in the comic books, there's some bar where all these thugs hang out. I mean, you probably got some guy, and they probably pilfer the Catalina foothills, and you've probably got Mercedes Mark, and you've probably got BMW Beto or whatever, and then you got a bunch of guys who steal Hondas because you can swap the parts out and build little street racers out of them. Is there anyone lower on the totem pole than the Kia boys?
Dude, these guys are real dorks, man.
Is there like some 70-year-old man who's like Fiat Fred, and he's the lowest guy on the totem pole in the corner? But I mean, come on. No, I'm not slamming, but you're right. It's a middle-class car. Typically, I think of, who's going to be driving a Kia?
Right.
Podcast host extraordinaire.
But
the hip history teacher.
John Schuster.
But here's the thing, though.
The hip history piece of
the
history.
only thing of value that I have in my car, they didn't take my golf clubs. There was probably about $800 worth of golf clubs that they're like, we don't want any of that stuff. So, by the way, Jervis, I think you're exactly right. The same person that stole Dylan Anderson's bike, I believe, came after the Kia. I'm just going to put that one out there on a. Okay. Now let's see here. All right, let's get back to Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic's another good one. Casey Jacobson, when he wasn't talking about himself, was talking about the games that he was going to be commentating. And Florida Atlantic's another good one. They were in the Final Four last year. Like you said, Ben White, very good guards. I'm excited to see that one as well. Florida Atlantic and Alabama, fellas, are the games that I want to see. Boom.
I'm at the point now where I'm buying in. I'm 100% bought in.
Nice.
Part of me thinks Alabama's the only one they might lose. And the fact that that's in Phoenix is probably to their advantage. I can see them getting some weird home cooking in Indianapolis and suddenly Ballo and Krivas are in weird foul trouble, but Edey is not. But from a talent standpoint, and again, I'm not sold on the Big. Although I claim they were the Big Ten's overrated again.
Big Ten stinks, dude.
I don't think Florida Atlantic is. I think Florida Atlantic caught fire when they. I think it's Bama or not. This team may go whatever it in 1 or whatever in 0 into Pac-12 play, unless they just have an atrocious night. And again, all these teams are talented enough to beat Arizona, but they're putting whooping on tonight. Belmont's going to win 18 to 20 games,
right?
And Belmont could have lost by 45 if Arizona doesn't let up and they don't get a little hot from 3. So. Yeah, I think Bama's by far and away the most talented they're going against, and that includes, I know, they're number 2, they're Purdue, they're still probably not good.
Purdue, here's what I think of Purdue. I don't care about any of these teams. I don't want to hear anything about the Big Ten. We will make fun of the Big Ten until the horses come home. Is that the term? The horses come home, the cows come home.
I think it's horses. I don't think
cows go anywhere. Either way, these are terrible games, but I would tell people this. When the NCAA tournament comes around, I would tell you to get onto the BetMGM Sportsbook app and bet against every single Big Ten team in the first round. And guess what? They might win 1 game, but who cares? Because you will win the other 13. That's what you need to do with the BetMGM Sportsbook app. Right now, though, you can put down $10 and you will receive $200 instantly in additional winnings, regardless of your outcome. How cool is that, by the way? Sign up for BetMGM. Use bonus code PHNX. Place your first BetMGM Sportsbook wager through BetMGM Sportsbook mobile app of at least $10. You will receive $200 instantly in additional winnings, regardless of your wager's outcome. Check out show notes for details. Let's hear Shane Diefenbach with a disclaimer.
Problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., New York, or Ontario.
All right, one last one. Gila River Casinos. Visit GilaMillion-Showdown.com to get in on all the action. For more information on Gila River Resorts and Casinos and all they have to offer, head to play at Gila.com. Live like Ben White out there. Okay, I thought something Brad said was fairly interesting, that he thinks that Arizona is going to go into the Pac-12 play with 0 or 1 loss, which leads me to my next point. The Pac-12 stinks. UCLA is poo. USC is interesting because they do have some players, but they're not, Isaiah Collier, Boogie Ellis are problems in the backcourt. Up front, you got Joshua Morgan. Kobe Johnson isn't bad. Big Vince, the Prince. Oregon is always kind of schizophrenic, but they could maybe, those are really the only 2 teams I could see winning. Maybe Colorado, but I don't see that. Arizona is probably only going to lose 2 or 3 games.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, SC, like you said, they have the dynamic guard play, but they got to get healthy. UCLA looks really, really bad early on. And there's really not that fringe school in the Pac-12 that you look at this year and think, oh, maybe they can do something. I know, Oregon State has teased us in the past, or Washington State. Maybe they've had a player or 2 who kind of just catches the eye off the screen. But yeah, I mean, holistically, this conference just isn't very good. And I think that's the beauty. And I think where Arizona is smart, right, is because they have such a good non-conference schedule. It's going to help them get better. And it's also going to help them from a ranking perspective when we get to the Pac-12 tournament in March and when we get to the selection committee day. And the fact that you've played all these top 25 teams, compared to other teams throughout the country. I think it's beneficial. I think it's weird because you may learn more about Arizona now than you'll learn about them in February for sure.
All right.
Does this feel like one of those Arizona teams like in the past where we're going to look back and there's going to be that 1 loss, much like, I don't know, was it USC in 98 on the
Adam Spanish
that I swear hit the bottom of the rim first?
Yes.
This feels like a Devin Askew fadeaway 3 at Haas, or I don't even know if they play there, or some kid from Utah banking in a 3 at the buzzer, and Arizona's going to go whatever it is now. I don't even know how many they play. Is it 19-1 or 18-1? It just feels like it could be that. Now again, maybe UCLA figures it out, maybe Oregon figures it out. And we all know USC is good, but we've seen this script where Arizona, and it's happened a few times, the best team in the pack, they beat all the other good teams in the pack, and they end up losing to a mid-level or even a bottom, 4 or 5 team, much like, losing to some bad Stanford teams or that. So that's just kind of what it's feeling like. And again, I'm getting way ahead of myself. But again, I've completely bought into this team after 4 games.
All right. Speaking of something that we've bought into, we need to talk real quick about Arizona, Utah tomorrow. That is a big tip of the cap to Jed Fish that we are on a basketball post-game show where Arizona's ranked number 3 in the country. And before we sign off, we got to get a little bit of football talk in. I am back in the A tomorrow. I believe that I'm riding this Noah Fifita wave. I believe that Noah Fifita is going to leave Arizona as the best quarterback in school history. And I stand by that. I thought he should have started from day one. I think there's something very special about our diminutive quarterback. I'm back in the A, guys. I think Arizona's going to win this game, and I think they're going to go up to about 15 in the rankings. Ben White, I see you disagreeing. You think Arizona's going to get blown out?
No, I don't think they're going to get blown out. I think they're going to win. I think when you look at both these teams, I trust Arizona's offense and defense a lot better than both Utah's sides. I think Utah has struggled offensively. They haven't really found a groove all season just because Rising has been hurt and they've had some issues. And even their run game, I mean, it's been decent, but it hasn't been just flat out dominant like we've seen in years past. So Arizona's proven, whether it's Washington, USC, UCLA, whoever it is, at that front 7, they're able to stop teams on the defensive side. And I think Utah is already having trouble scoring points. And I think you'll see tomorrow that Fifita will get in his groove. I think, he might face some pressure, and it's certainly not going to be easy by any means, but I would take Arizona tomorrow. I think they win by maybe 7 to 10 points.
Are you back in the A tomorrow, Mr. Brad A-Liss?
I'm just worried that Utah's going to establish the run and conversely not dominate, but
you're doubting Big Bill Norton.
Arizona up front.
You're doubting Big Bill Norton.
I am a little bit. That being said, if it comes down to where Utah has to throw, Arizona has the clear advantage in this game because Fifita's better and the receivers are better. I just worry about the physicalness of Utah with all those 26-year-old linemen and
Big Bill Norton's 23, my friend. Come on.
Yeah, but Utah. I mean, Utah. A couple of their guys have their kids driving them to the game because they're 16. I mean, this is how Utah is.
So you like Utah? You're back in the U, not the A.
I worry about this one. I like the fact it's in Tucson. I like the fact that it might be a little toasty, although the weather wasn't today. But I can see it. I am more worried about this game than I have been any game since I don't know, in a month.
Well, that's when you're in a good spot. Also, if you got a headache and you're like, man, I got to get to bed. Here's the deal. Get some Wink. Drink Wink, my friend. Available in either 2.5 milligrams or 5 milligram cans. You can find Wink right here in Arizona. Look for Wink at all Sunday Goods dispensaries in the Valley and Botanica Dispensary in Tucson. You can also save money online by going to drinkwink.com and use promo code PHNX for 20% off. All right, everybody. As I always say, there has never been a better time to back the A. I say that the basketball and football programs are in the best shape that they've been since the mid-90s. When I grew up, I thought basically every 4 years we go to the Final Four, and every 5 years we have a top 10 football program. That has not been the case for a long time. So enjoy this. We deserve good things. We've been through that Andy Dufresne when he's trying to get out of the jail and he's crawling through all the poop. We've been through that. We were out on the other side and we were yelling out freedom. All of you out there, we deserve to have good things. Just like Ben White deserves to have good things, Brad Allis deserves to have good things. On that note, for the great Ben White, the venerable Brad Allis, and the tired Jacob Franklin. You don't get the great adjective today because you're tired. I can see you behind the scenes. I am merely Mike Luke. All of you listeners, you guys are the ones that make the show. As always, really appreciate you. We will be back. We'll be back with you right after the Utah game tomorrow, and then Sunday we'll be back with you again. The hits keep coming. But on that note, you've been listening to the AZ Wildcats postgame.
We all silly like the mayor.